Why do people choose to live on Signal Mountain? Well, there are several reasons, and in this video, we'll unpack those. But typically, people that choose to live on Signal Mountain want a quieter lifestyle. They want a more intentional daily rhythm, and they really appreciate access to nature and feeling like they can disconnect without being too far from the city. Now, Signal Mountain really isn't great for those people that want walkable nightlife, or people that hate longer drives or weather inconveniences, or people that value close commutes and close proximity over space and privacy. What makes Signal Mountain different than other Chattanooga suburbs is that it's really a distinct mountain community that happens to be about 15 minutes from downtown Chattanooga. So if you're considering relocating to the greater Chattanooga area, this video is to help you decide if Signal Mountain is actually a good fit for you. So let's jump into the video. First of all, I want to talk about what living on Signal Mountain is actually like. What is daily life actually like there? Well, it's noticeably different than being down in the Chattanooga Valley. I would say that day-to-day life there feels quieter, feels more calm, more relaxed. It's also cooler up there. It tends to be between 5 and 10 degrees cooler, and it's definitely more nature forward. In fact, that's the main reason that I go spend time up on Signal Mountain for fun, is because of the great access to nature that they have up there. You're surrounded by trees, rock formations, gorgeous views out over the Chattanooga River Gorge or the Chattanooga Valley. Foggy mornings are normal. Waking up and being in the clouds, that's normal. And snow and ice tend to happen a little bit more than people would expect in the Chattanooga area. Now, I have firsthand experience with this really recently. I have a client who is purchasing a home up on Signal Mountain, and just the other day, we had an ice storm that kind of affected a lot of the Southeast in general. I live down in the Chattanooga Valley, and it really wasn't so bad where I live. But when I was putting Signal Mountain into my GPS to head over there, I was really surprised by how many of the roads were closed and how many of the normal routes that I would have considered taking were closed to get up there. And then when I was making my way up the mountain, you could just see sheets of ice. There's kind of these cliffs that you drive along to get up there, and there was sheets of icicles hanging off of these cliffs. It was actually really pretty, but I could see how much the ice impacts living up on the mountain. Another thing that I noticed while I was up there, so on that same day after the ice storm, while I was up there, I was there quite a bit later than I typically am. Typically, if I go up to Signal Mountain, I'm there in the morning, not in the evening so much, but this time I was there quite late in the evening. And I stopped by the local grocery store up there on top of the mountain, and I was just surprised to see so many kids out and about, running around, riding bikes. It reminded me of when I was a kid, because we would just kind of go out, ride our bikes all around. You know, our parents would send us outside and we'd go have a great time. Well, that's what it was like up on Signal Mountain the other evening when I was there. These kids were just out playing, having a blast. Parents were nowhere to be seen. And not in a neglectful way. I mean, they just seemed like they were out having a great time. It seems that up on Signal Mountain, people tend to know their neighbors, and community events center around the community pool or the country club in the summer, or the trails and the various places to get out and experience nature. So if you thrive on constant stimulation, on always being around other people, then Signal Mountain could feel isolating. But if you thrive on peace and quiet and access to nature, then Signal Mountain is going to feel like a haven. This is an ad. If you don't need help finding a home in the greater Chattanooga area, skip this part of the video. But if you do, my name is Andrew Boyd. I'm a licensed real estate agent in both Tennessee and Georgia, and I've helped several people make the move to Chattanooga, and I have the 5-star reviews to back it up. So if you're thinking about making the move, reach out to me. You can get in touch with the contact info in the description below, or by scanning the QR code here on screen and booking a meeting with me. During the meeting, we'll get to know each other and we'll go over your game plan for your move to Chattanooga. If I can't help you, there's absolutely no pressure to work together. So go ahead and book your free meeting with me. All right, let's get back to the video. The next section, or the next bit that I want to talk about, is the mountain tax. So I don't mean a literal financial tax. I mean more of a burden that is levied on you when you decide to live up there. So here are some of the trade-offs, the most common trade-offs that people experience living up on the mountain versus down in the valley. Up on the mountain, you're gonna have steeper driveways, you're gonna have narrow, winding roads. I mean, some of the roads up there really are quite narrow. There is the main US 127 that's wide, it's well done, but then some of those roads that wind through the little suburbs up there of Signal Mountain are so tight. Those like little neighborhood roads. I mean, they technically have a yellow down the middle, but I don't think they're up to DOT specifications for being as wide as they technically should be. Another trade-off with living on the mountain is that you'll have access to fewer services than you would if you were down in the valley. Maybe down in the valley, you have more internet provider services available. You have closer services in terms of your dentist, your doctor's office, all of those sorts of things. On the mountain, you do have a logistical time tax if you want to get up and down the mountain to your dentist office, to your favorite coffee shop, to your favorite restaurant. Those are going to be things that you need to take into account if you live up on top of the mountain. The other thing I would say with living up on Signal Mountain is that winter matters. So if you live down in the valley, they tend to be really quick about getting your power back on, about clearing the roads. But it seems like up on the mountain, when a winter storm rolls through, it's going to take them longer to get to that. Roads might be shut down longer. It might take them longer to get your power back on if there are power outages. I know at this recent ice storm, there was a lot of people that went without power for up to 24 hours due to how difficult it was to reach some of these locations. For some of these locations, they had to clear roads to get to the affected area to restore the power. So if you're from further up north and you're used to really cold winters, the winters on Signal Mountain probably wouldn't seem too bad to you. But the issue is that there is not necessarily all the resources that you have in those northern states for dealing with cold weather and cold weather issues. So it might take longer for the city or for the county to respond and make their necessary repairs after a severe weather event. Now, it's no secret with Signal Mountain that the reason a lot of people move there is because of the school system. Now, if you want to know more about specific ratings when it comes to the school system, I would encourage you to check out greatschools.org or niche.com. These both go into depth and have parent reviews and teacher testimonials about the specific schools. So this is a big draw for families wanting to move to the greater Chattanooga area. Next, let's talk about housing on Signal Mountain. So there really is a wide variety of housing and housing stock options on Signal Mountain. Closer to downtown Chattanooga in the old town district of Signal Mountain, you have a lot of historic cottages and more historic homes with quite a bit of character to them, maybe homes that have undergone years of renovation on top of renovation on top of renovation. So with these homes, you can get some really cool character, but then you also run the risk of not knowing what the people before you did to the property. So that's something that I always want to look at with these historic homes. Then, as Signal Mountain continued to grow in popularity and expand, you have a lot of houses that were built in the 1990s and early 2000s. So these are larger homes. They tend to be brick four sides, and they're in nice little suburban neighborhoods. So there's a lot of that going on too. And then more recently, there have been a number of developments doing luxury estates. So we're talking modern homes built maybe from 2015 on that are beautifully done, that have the large floor-to-ceiling glass, the gorgeous views, that are efficient. These homes really do tend to command a premium price, especially if somebody put a lot of time and attention to detail behind the finishes, behind the way that they put this house together. Then that could mean that those luxury homes are quite expensive. Now, if anything is on the brow, if it has a brow view, a bluff view out over Chattanooga, then these homes are seriously expensive. These homes are no joke when it comes to price. Brow view, even if the home is not that amazing of a home, the view is going to command a premium because those lots are extremely limited and they always command a significant price premium. Now, what I would say about the housing market in Signal Mountain in general is that inventory is limited and demand is fairly steady. There's a lot of people that want to be up there. So with this limited inventory, you tend to have elevated prices. This is one of the more expensive suburbs in the Chattanooga area. From time to time, you will see people get a great deal on top of the mountain, but for the most part, there is very consistent demand. Next, I want to talk about food, errands, and kind of the small town vibe that you have on top of Signal Mountain. So when it comes to some of the other mountaintop communities in the greater Chattanooga area, for instance, if we're talking about Lookout Mountain, if we're talking about over at Jasper Highlands or in Guild, or if we're talking about Mowbray Mountain and kind of further northeast, you're not going to have all of the mountaintop amenities that you do in Signal Mountain. Signal Mountain is the only mountaintop community that is close to Chattanooga that has pretty much everything you need on top of the mountain itself. So there is a grocery store, a locally owned grocery store called Pruitt's up there that is actually very nice. It's a great grocery store. You've got local cafes, local bakeries. You've got local restaurants up there on top of the mountain. There's even some chain places. I believe there's a Domino's and a Subway up there. I could be wrong about the Subway, but I know there's a Domino's up there. There are pharmacies on top of the mountain, and there's even an Ace Hardware. There are a couple of dentists. There's some primary care physicians. There are all kinds of things and amenities on top of the mountain that make it a really great community to live in. Now, what you don't have up there is you don't have a lot of the big box stores. There's not these endless strip malls with, your Target, your Whole Foods, your Publix, all that. That's not up there on the mountain. You don't have endless dining options. There are a few great options up there, but for the most part, if you want a variety of dining options, you're going to have to make your way down the mountain. And there's not a lot of late night convenience up there. If it's 9 p.m. and you need some groceries, you're probably out of luck. For a lot of people, it makes sense to make a trip into Chattanooga at least once a week to run to maybe Target or Whole Foods or Publix or Costco, any of those big box stores. Let's move on to the next section, which is all about outdoors and the outdoors lifestyle. So really at the center of the culture and of the social network on Signal Mountain is the Signal Mountain Country Club. This is where there's a large community pool, there's a playground, there's the golf course, obviously, and you've got tennis courts, pickleball courts. There's also the public pool area on Signal Mountain, and this is very popular during the summer. There are baseball fields there, and there's also tennis courts that I believe double as pickleball courts there too. So when it comes to outdoor recreation, there are plenty of options just there. But then you have access to places like Signal Point. Now, Signal Point is a popular place for people that are into rock climbing to park their cars and then hike down to some of the best climbing in the area. You've got the Julia Falls overlook right there, which is amazing. There's also the Rainbow Lake Wilderness area that has a gorgeous trail. It's one of my favorite trails in the area that takes you out to Edwards Point, which has a phenomenal view of the Chattanooga River Gorge. There are plenty of waterfalls to see. There's mountain biking. There's people that are into road biking up there. You've got rock climbing. I mean, the list really does go on with things that you can do in the outdoors right there on top of Signal Mountain. A lot of people that move to Chattanooga for the outdoors will go up to Signal Mountain on the weekends. And so if that's one of the reasons that you're moving here, then that could be a great reason to consider living on Signal Mountain itself. The next thing I want to talk about is realistic commutes to get to downtown. Now, there are really 3 ways to get from downtown Chattanooga or the greater Chattanooga area to the top of Signal Mountain. There's US 127 that is also known as Taft Highway. This is the most direct and well-maintained route to the top of Signal Mountain. The sketchiest way to get to the top of Signal Mountain is known as the W Road. I don't know what the actual name for this road is, but everybody calls it the W Road. It's got these very intense switchbacks that are really only one way. So if you've got people coming down, they've got to stop so that you can come around that switchback, and then, vice versa. You'll stop for people that are coming down, they'll stop for you coming up, but you really can only go around those tight W's in this road one way. And then located at the northern end of the mountain, you've got Roberts Mill Road. This is really a road connecting Signal Mountain to Soddy Daisy, to the Soddy Daisy area, that is. So if you're coming from the northern side of Chattanooga and trying to get up to Signal Mountain, this is probably the most convenient road to take. Overall, if you're hauling a trailer or if you have an RV or if you have a larger vehicle, I would avoid the W Road. Take US 127, aka Taft Highway. Now, when it comes to your commute to downtown, on the long end, you'll be about 25 minutes to get to downtown Chattanooga. And on the close end, you could be as little as 15 minutes to get to downtown. This will vary with rush hour. If you have a lot of people coming up and down the mountain, that can definitely slow you down. So I would always try to budget for that. For the most part, though, I see worse traffic getting to and from other suburbs than I do with Signal Mountain. Signal Mountain really does offer a lot. If you're looking for mountaintop living, it's kind of in its own ecosystem where you don't have to leave the mountain for your daily necessities, then this really is the best option in the Chattanooga area, in my opinion. You're typically going to have to pay for this lifestyle, though, when it comes to the price of real estate, the extra planning that it takes, and the extra time that it takes to actually get to and from work or anything downtown Chattanooga. So if you're thinking about making a move to the greater Chattanooga area and you found this helpful, I would love to help you even more. You can reach out to me through the info in the description below, or by scanning the QR code here on screen. I'm a licensed real estate agent in both Tennessee and Georgia. If you made it this far in the video, YouTube thinks you might like one of these videos here. I make a lot of content on what it's like to live in the greater Chattanooga area. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.